the count of five.
What's up YouTube, it's ArtisanMc, and today, or tonight, I'm going to review RamboLastBlood. Now, when I found out this movie was coming out last year, I was looking forward to seeing it. From the trailer, I got the vibe that this was going to be a get off my lawn situation, you know, Rambo Gran Torino in a sense. And having seen the movie now, I will say I was a bit off on that. This Rambo character I've been watching since the beginning, all the way back to Rambo First Blood. I was watching it back in the freaking 80s when I was a kid. And Rambo for me was always that interesting character, because I think before we got into a lot of really big action heroes, so to speak, Rambo was that guy coming out of the Vietnam War, dealing with a society that didn't respect his sacrifices and didn't really understand him. And at least for me, that could parallel being black in a sense. Definitely be a black man as I am older and understand it. Definitely being a black man. And as time went on, this character grew in popularity to the point that it actually had a Saturday morning cartoon that I watched, which was decent. It was toys and all kind of stuff out of this character. But the more it went on, the more you saw that this character was used, double-crossed, tortured, abused, and in the end had to turn around and still fight for his country, fighting for what he believed was right at the time. Now, 5 movies later, you get to Rambo Last Blood, and I'm still thinking about it because I just finished it, but there are some deeper elements in this movie. I will say this movie is not so much about just what John Rambo endures. It's about the cost on everybody else in the world today, and this person who was there, who's still living in this world, who has seen the bad side of the world and just wants to carve out his own space in it and be away from it. And sure enough, trying to hide from it comes knocking. So in the story, you see John Rambo home, in a sense. He's back home on his family farm where he was raised, and he's staying with Maria and Gabrielle. And Maria, I believe, was, I don't know, his father's maid or something like that. Don't think she was his wife, but a maid or something. And when John Rambo finally comes back to Arizona after the events of Rambo, the last Rambo movie, he comes back home and lets them stay there and helps Maria raise Gabrielle. Now, as it stands, you would think that Maria and Gabrielle are mother and daughter. Turns out that Maria and Gabrielle are actually, I guess, grandmother and granddaughter. has since raised her granddaughter as her own, and John Rambo has raised her as his daughter. In the 10 years he's been back since his father died, he took over the ranch. And you get up John Rambo in this movie that you see, who is still living in the world but not completely comfortable in the world. He is still plagued by the demons that he has lived through in the Vietnam War and the other things that he's had to do through the series of these movies, that in a sense he suffers from some severe PTSD. He can function, but he doesn't want to be around a lot of people. He doesn't. And he's plagued by the people that he couldn't save. So there's a lot of survivor's guilt there right from the beginning of the movie, that you can see he still carries this burden of survivor's guilt. That why is he always the one who survives? Not that he's out there trying to look for his death, but he's trying to save as many people as he can, and he can't save everybody. He can't save everybody, and that bothers him. So, you get to meet Maria and see the relationship that her and John Rambo have. That's a good relationship. I wouldn't call it simply communal. It's more of a family. They're a family by choice. So they share this house, they work this land, and they're cordial, they talk. It's a family situation. And the relationship between John and Gabriella is one of father-daughter. He really loves this girl. If it was possible for this character to have anything in this world that he could love, he loved that girl. And being a father, I understand that. Now, part in this movie that gets a bit serious is that, just to jump ahead, because I don't want to give a full review and it's still fresh in my mind, but you move a bit of the head and you get to see who Gabriella is, and then you find out that an old friend of hers that used to live in Arizona, who has since moved to Mexico, calls her and has information on finding her biological father. Now, Gabriella brings this information to John Rambo to ask him what he thinks of it. And he gets to explain that outside of the walls, or excuse me, the fences of that ranch, the world is dangerous. The night is dark and full of terrors. And where Gabriella wants to go, which is Mexico, to go meet her father for the first time, he tells her that that's not a good idea. And what you get is John Rambo trying to use a little bit of parental authority to try to convince the girl not to go. Well, by the next morning, she's talking to Maria, and she's telling her what she found out and finding her father, and Maria is livid about this. She's like, no. Apparently, the father was not a good person. Through the course of a three-way conversation between John Rambo, Gabriella, and Maria spills the beans about who Gabriella's father really was and how he was abusive and beating Gabriella's mother and whatnot, and how John Rambo got him to leave all those years ago. Now, whereas Gabriella understands Maria and John's point, as you can guess, in teenage fashion, she tells him she's going one place, and she ends up going to Mexico. to meet up with her friend Giselle in Mexico and find her father. Now, this is the part that I will say that secrets hurt children. Some things, and I'll say this just from my experience as a father, some things need to be told to children, because without that knowledge, it just eats at them. If you think about the movie Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio's character is telling you that the idea of inception is that you must understand and simplify the idea down to the smallest particle, right? That idea will come to define that person. So you have to be really careful about what it is that you incept into somebody. In the case of this movie, the idea that has been incepted into Gabriella is that she knows nothing about her father. Nothing at all. And because she knows nothing about him, there is a void. There are unanswered questions that no one will answer for her because they are hiding the truth from her. And I understand that to a point, but I'll just say you can't wait till a child is a teenager to start telling them the truth. You're going to have to tell them before that. Because as a teenager, they got a lot of room to run from that. And if you don't give them that truth, they're going to want to go find the answers. And they're going to try to go find some answers. And it may not be the ones you want them to find. So, Gabriella goes to Mexico, meets up with Giselle, her friend, and Giselle is kind of a chola. Okay, she's kind of a hood chick. And lives in a sketchy part of town, but it's Mexico. I haven't seen Mexico, so I can't say. Sketchy, ran down, whatever the fuck. I don't know. But from what it looks like in this movie, it's a sketchy fucking part of town. It's hood. And her emotions are kind of all over the place. But Giselle takes her to meet her father. And Gabriella goes up to the apartment and goes up to the door, knocks on the door, and meets a woman and asks to speak to Miguel, who is her father. And then she does end up having an interaction with Miguel. Now, Miguel realizes who she is, talks to her and whatnot, and she gets Gabriella gets to ask her question, the question that she wants to know from her father. And he gives her the truth. And it's not pretty. Now, crushed by this knowledge, Gabriella wants to leave. She goes back down to her car where Giselle is, and Giselle convinces her not to leave right now because it's late and she's too upset, but instead to go somewhere to relax and cool off, and takes her to a fucking club. Once in the club, it's cowboy boots, belt buckles, and cowboy hats, and hip-hop music, and lights and drinks and whatever, and Gabriella, being a very virginal and a young looking girl, is in the club, and she is hit on by some older men, or an older guy. And inevitably in this situation with females who have no experience with this shit, somebody slips something into her fucking drink. The next thing you get is Maria coming to tell John that she's gotten a phone call from Gisela, and that Gabriella met her father left upset, and she didn't know where she was. And as you can expect, John Rambo, hearing this news, is pissed and immediately leaves to Mexico to find Gabriela. Now, I've seen a couple of movies on this phenomenon, and they're a bit unsettling. And due to recent events, it's really personally unsettling to me. As you can imagine, Gabriela has been kidnapped into some human trafficking shit. And she is now being held up in this house by these two brothers who run a human trafficking operation and a horror operation in Mexico, where they kidnap these young girls, drug them, beat them, and put them to work having sex with 40 to 50 men a night. Now, this part is kind of tough, just for me, because I've said it before, I have a daughter. And this is something I wouldn't wish on anybody. It's not. So, basically how this movie is playing out like, can't remember the name of the movie right now that I'm thinking about it, but it was a true story of an Asian girl who was kidnapped into some human trafficking situation. And eventually she got free, but she was gone 4 years. And when she got free, she told her story. I think there was a book made, but there was a movie made by one of the Asian girls on Disney. I can't remember her damn name right now. It's lost to me. I'll find it and put it in this video. But you take that movie, you take Traffic with Omar Epps and I'm forgetting her name right now, and Taken, and you get the gist of what's happening. All right. So, to get back to John Rambo gets to Giselle's house and starts questioning her. And during the questioning, she's giving all kind of evasive answers, but then John Rambo sees her wrist. And on her wrist, she has a bracelet. She has Gabriela's bracelet. And she makes an excuse and says, oh, she gave it to her. And he knows she's lying because he tells her that this is her mother's bracelet and she would never give it to anybody. So he figures out she's lying and gets her to take him to the club that they were at and to point out the guy that was talking to Gabriela in the club. So Giselle obliges and they get to the club, and John Rambo gets marked on this guy named El Flaco. And while watching El Flaco in the club, another woman is paying attention to John Rambo watching El Flaco. Upon following El Flaco out the club to go bang some chick out in his truck, you get the first violent scene in the movie. that this is actually the first indication of how savage this movie is going to be. And it doesn't happen for a long time because they take a lot of time in the beginning developing the story between who John Rambo is, who Maria is, who Gabriella is, and the relationship between the three of them. And why John Rambo would find himself in Mexico looking for this girl. Okay? So if you want to say this is John Rambo and Taken, you could probably make that argument. But on how the movie is hitting me, it's hitting completely different. Because mind you, this girl is not blood. Alright? But somebody he's raised since she was like 7, 8. He's raised her. She's about ready to go off to college. She has a bright future ahead of her. And now this has happened. So when John Rambo meets El Flaco, you get El Flaco ends up getting El Stucco. Stabby, stabby. And it's gruesome. If you take your hand by your neck and move over to this bone right here, this is your collarbone. John Rambo hilt butts this man right here to the soft spot and makes a hole. Then he takes the knife and jams it straight into his thigh all the way through. Now while this hole is bleeding, he sticks his thumb in this hole and goes under his collarbone and starts breaking that out. Damn. That is what I call the business. He getting the business, and it is not pretty. And as Rambo movies go, the last one being an example, when it gets bloody, it don't just get bloody. It get gore. It get gore. You're gonna see all of it, and it's gonna be rough business. So if you have a problem with that kind of shit, you probably should stop watching this movie. Okay. Now, with that little bit of persuasion, John Rambo convinces El Flaco to take him to where he took the girl. Because now, beforehand, before the knife came out, he didn't know shit. After that bone got broke, he started remembering a little bit more stuff. So, he takes him to the house where the girl's being held, and to make a long story short, John Rambo ends up getting caught by the guy who runs the place, which is one of these brothers who are running the human trafficking ring, and the other brother. They both meet him. And they get his ID and ask him who he is, and find the picture of Gabriella in his wallet. That doesn't go good. So if you've seen the scene in the commercials, this is where a fight ensues. Now, where you would think, in a different action movie, one dude would take out all 30 of these guys. Not in the Elder Rambo movie. He gets his ass beat. But he is rescued by the chick that was watching him in the bar when he was scoping out El Flaco. Turns out that this chick is a journalist, and her sister was moved or something like that by El Flaco and found dead. So she's an investigative journalist trying to find information on these guys to try to take them down. And she helps nurse John Rambo back to health. While John Rambo is unconscious and having his face marked by the human trafficker dude with his own knife, Gabriella is also marked. Her face is also cut, and she is shot up on drugs and made to perform numerous sexual acts over the course of 4 days. She's routinely drugged and routinely thrown into a room so some dude can just jump up and down on her. Now, before this, she was a virgin. So, not a good day in Mexico. When Rambo is recovered, with the help of the journalist, he goes back on the hunt for Gabriela, and he ends up finding her. And she's shot up and been ran through. Face scarred, beat up. It's rough. And he takes her home. To make a long story short, she dies on the way. This is a rough part of the movie. For me, it's rough because for the character to have survived all that, she died when she knew she was rescued by John, that he came back for her and rescued her, but she dies halfway between there and home. Too much damage has been done, and the drugs have taken the course. She overdoses and dies. And that's sad. Now, where it's also more sad is for not just Gabriela, but John Rambo. This is what he held on to. This was his grip on the world, his hope for the world, so to speak. And it has been snuffed out by people who do not give a damn about whatever hope or dream that girl was or had. So he gets back to his ranch and tells Maria. And in grandmother fashion, she breaks down. Now, it's not clear how much time passes between him arriving back at his ranch, burying Gabriela, and Maria moving out, but it's enough time that he starts to fortify the ranch because he knows what he's going to do. He builds booby traps all over the place in this vast tunnel structure he has under his land because he does not sleep in the house. He sleeps in an underground bunker with tunnels all over the property. He builds booby traps all over the place. And then he goes back down to Mexico, enlists the help of that journalist to find one of those brothers, the thin one who cut his face and cut Gabriela's face. Now this is where things start getting a little bit more sticky. In Rambo fashion, he dispatches a lot of guys. And it's not pretty. It does highlight the benefit of a knife over guns. Knives do the job if you know how to use it. It's up close, it's personal, it's messy, it's hot. And I think the best word for this shit is savage. He goes after these guys to get to the one of the brothers, the thin of the brothers who cut his face and cut Gabriela's face. And he gets him. By the time the other brother finds out what is happening and finds his brother, a little less than himself. They decide to go to John Rambo's place and look for him. Now, this is the climax of the movie, and I'm running a little bit long on this, so I hope I'll finish it in the next 5 minutes or so. When John Rambo first met these brothers, they took his ID. They knew his address and where he was from. So the remaining brother gathers up his crew of operators and come to Rambo's property. Now, this is Gran Torino. This is get off my land. This is a stand your ground situation. Although he brought the fight to himself, them kidnapping that girl, doing what they did to her dying, that was it. They were done. That was just over. So, in very gruesome fashion, these guys are starting to get picked off on this ranch by some very ingenious improvised devices. And I would just have to say, for me, a rebar punji pit is not cool. Neither is a double barrel shotgun to the back of the head at close range. They could have had Frank Castle in this movie and it would have been just as fucking bloody. Just would have used more bullets. These guys are dispatched in short order. And when he gets down to the last guy, he has an opportunity to kill him, but he doesn't. He waits, because he wants him last. Then after a short taunting session, where he tells the guy exactly what he is going to do to him, John Rambo blows up the tunnels on his floor. This causes the last brother to run out of those tunnels and try to escape, and he escapes the tunnels. He does not escape the boat. Not at all. The last thing that guy sees is John Rambo walking towards him, taking out his knife, and doing exactly what he told him he was going to do. And that's what I can appreciate, is a man that keeps his word, and about that conviction. And that's the end of the movie. Now, I ran long on this because I'm having a reaction to this movie. It's not, in my senses, it's a movie, but it strikes close to home because I have a daughter in that age range. And maybe I've seen one too many movies with this actual problem, this real world problem thrown into it, but it just makes me all the more sensitive to the issue, put it that way. So I tried to keep it concise without swearing and going the hell off, which probably would have been more helpful. But it's late. I'm tired. It's been a long freaking day. So, did I like the movie? I did like the movie. Was it a perfect movie? No, it's an action movie. Action movies aren't perfect by design. It wasn't as gory as a movie like this could be. You got to see a little bit more of this character, and as I said before, I liked the John Rambo character. But this character has been through a lot. He's been through a hell of a lot. And this one is just like the fucking cherry on top for forget this damn world. For me. The character, however, yeah, look through it. If this is the last one, okay, it's the last one. Let it be. I better not see a number 6 show up. But I'm glad that they kind of rounded out this story, but left a character in a place that's pretty fucked up. So that is my review of Rambo Last Blood. If you liked it, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel where I will do more reviews. Check out my Sunday morning Shop Talk Live, now featuring panel discussions and conversations. And support the channel. The links will be in this video at the end, and they work anytime. So that's it for me. I'm going to turn this off and take my ass to bed. So see you guys next time. Peace.